The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renault. Today on Live and Learn, we have a very special guest. It's Tracy Foreman. She's a fitness guru with Aging Partners and teaches many of the fitness classes that are just starting up. She's going to be here to talk about some of those programs and perhaps a couple of new programs as well. Stick around.
I'm Lita Powell Drake, and stay tuned for an 82-year-old octogenarian who is still flying airplanes. His name is Bill Ramsey. You're going to love it. Stay tuned.
Hi everybody, my name's Kim Hachio. Welcome to Live and Learn. Hey, stay with me today because my guest Molly Nance and I will be talking about swimming as a lifetime sport and about her amazing 22-mile swim between the Caribbean islands of St. Lucia and Martinique.
I'm Sam Truax, and today my guests on Live and Learn will represent the three of the partners who are working to collaborate on the Prairie Corridor on the Haynes Branch project.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Here you see Suman Barkas, a master trainer of yoga, tai chi, and qigong, working with some participants in a recent Aging Partners workshop, and the person who has trained several of our instructors. Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renault. Delighted to be here today, and we have a very special guest who is a good friend to our program. It is Tracy Foreman. I always want to make sure I get your title right. You are Aging Partners Community and Health Educator. You're one of the people who's actually studied with Suman.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's always great to have you here. I always love talking to you. I love taking your classes. I always feel better when we're done.
That's good to hear.
And let's talk a little bit about Suman, because Suman really is a friend to Aging Partners.
Yes.
He comes to town on several occasions doing some training sessions. He is just so much fun to be around and such a positive influence.
He is, and so calm and laid back.
You
just feel calmer when you're around Suman. We started working with Suman several years ago when he was brought in by the health department, and several of us wanted to train under him. We had some of our multi-county senior managers come in and train under Suman also, and so we originally learned 8-form Tai Chi, and that's what we went out into the community and started to teach, and we were just shocked at the response. Suman is originally from Mongolia and then moved to China with his family, and he now resides in Oregon at the Oregon Research Institute, and he teaches Tai Chi, yoga, martial arts, and Qigong, which is of course one of our popular classes right now. So we're just thrilled to be connected, and twice a year he comes to Lincoln.
And one of the things that he is becoming a specialist in is health issues and how to improve circulation, those kinds of things. So they're really fun sessions to go to and really very helpful.
They are, very much so.
And one of the things that he is going to come to town for, he's going to be in Omaha, and that is at the World Tai Chi Qigong Day.
Yes,
it's
correct.
always the last Saturday in April, and really is a fun event.
It is, and there's many different things that you can do at those events. You can participate in the Tai Chi demonstrations, and they also do Qigong there, and they do some yoga, and they do demonstrations as you and I talked about with knives and different things. So it's very, very fun and interesting.
Yes, very much so. I'm going to, as I told you, I was going to put you on the spot. We need to get some sort of Aging Partners group to go up there. I think that would be great fun, so I'm going to put you in charge of that to see what it is that
you get the van and we're going. So
okay, very good. Okay, let's talk about exercise. It's crucial, it's critical. Aging Partners does a fabulous job with that. Come January, one of the things that people tend to do, which is great, is make those New Year's resolutions, and one of those things is to get in better shape.
Yes.
Probably one of the things I do every year, and sometimes I'm good at it and sometimes I'm not. But Aging Partners has not just the classes, but they have the fitness center. Let's talk a little bit about the fitness center, just in case people aren't aware that it's there, and how often it can be used, those kinds of things.
Well, our fitness center is moved over to 555 South 9th Street. We're in the old Election Commission office, and we have a very nice state-of-the-art fitness center there with all kinds of brand new cardio equipment. We have a big room that has new steps and ellipticals and treadmills, and we have trainers there 2 days a week that can work with people who are interested in getting started. And we also have a very nice strength area. We use the Body Solid equipment, and we find that we can give people really a complete workout and they can obtain the goals that they're shooting for. And after the first of the year, we're usually pretty gung-ho about doing that. So they can not only come to either our community fitness classes or come down to our fitness center.
And people can be real intimidated by, I mean, it's really nice equipment that's down there, and there's quite a bit of it. It can be kind of intimidating, but you are really good at working with people. You can set up a program for them. They can actually work with an individual trainer if they want.
We have trainers there 2 days a week, but there are also trainers on staff that can work with them on any of the days of the week. We set up a personalized plan with each of them, understanding that not everybody has the same goals. And for some people it's just getting their heart stronger. For some people it's building lean muscle mass and weight loss. So we try to fine-tune the program to each person's needs.
Very good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the classes. And maybe before we jump into some specifics about the classes, let's talk about some of the benefits, because I think sometimes people see or think exercise classes, oh, it's going to be it's a lot of work and I'm not able to do those kinds of things. But the benefits are really fabulous for all these classes, and they all have a few different kinds of benefits. But the health benefits and the stress release, really fabulous.
We know as we get older we lose lean muscle mass, and so it's important after the age of 50, at any age, to exercise, but because we lose lean muscle mass, we need to do things that are appropriate for our age to continue to build lean muscle mass and to keep our heart strong, to keep our bodies flexible, and to keep our joints lubricated. And so all those things are important, and the equipment we have will achieve all of those goals. So as I said before, we'll fine-tune that program to fit the needs of each individual.
And even the classes, really, the balance is a really crucial part of it. Improving circulation, just the movement itself is beneficial.
Yes, we have our Tai Chi, Qigong, and our yoga classes all really help people to improve core strength, balance, flexibility, and inner balance too. The balance that comes from reducing stress is very beneficial.
And we all need that.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Some of us more than others, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the classes. Okay. There are at least some different forms of some of the classes, and one of those, which is coming up in January, is the 4-week movement class. Let's talk a little bit about the movement class.
It's something new that we're putting out there for people to try, so they'll get a sampling of different types of exercise. We're going to have the chair dance, which has been a very popular class. People of all ages love to dance, and we notice especially people over the age of 50 seem to really like to get out there and shake a little bit and move. And so chair dance has been very popular. That will be week 1 of the series that we're going to do in January. And then the next one we're going to do is called Aging Backwards. And so that really is a combination of strength and flexibility and core strength. And then we're going to do a program, Standing Tall, it's called, and that one really helps to improve posture and balance. So we'll do lots of exercises that do that. And then the next one we'll do is a class with just different tools, balls and Dynabands and that sort of thing, to help to improve core strength, flexibility, and balance. So
that sounds fabulous. We had a chance to talk to the instructor of that class, Mitzi Aden, to find out a little bit more about it.
Aging Partners, we just kind of decided to start a little bit of something different. And by different, I don't think it's just earth-shattering or anything that way, but we know that, you know, as we age, we need to be up and moving, right? So a lot of them like to do line dancing. So that's up and moving to, you know, a beat or to the tune that they're playing or whatever. So that's what we're going to start doing with this. It's just the first class we're going to have is just, we're going to start out in the chair, get warmed up a little bit, and then when we get up, we're going to do however many songs that we're going to do to the beat of the music. And it's just a nice kind of slow movement. You're going to the right, you're going to the left, kind of like a line dancing, but yet not line dancing per se. Just, I would say, if you wanted to call it something like maybe a slow aerobic movement, aerobics dance kind of type of thing, even though it's not so much dancing, but it's movement and it's to a certain counter beat. And then it's, like I said, side to side, forward, back. And then after we do a few songs of that, it's back into the chair, but it's another maybe movements in the chair, give them a little bit of a break, and then it's back up, and then we'll start again and do a few more songs up. And then they have the choice to stay right behind the chair if they want to. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to move off to the side. Well, then they can stay right there. And then I'll show them the modification to stay behind the chair. Maybe just if they feel safer there, they can stay there. I think the first thing is just like, don't panic, don't panic. This is just for fun. We aren't, you know, we're not going to be joining, I tell people, Dancing with the Stars. None of us in here are about that. We're just up to have actually an enjoyable time that we feel like we can move and breathe and just have a good time. It's just a 45-minute class, you know, and then we want, since it's a different 4-class segment that we're doing, we want to have the comment card. So we're hoping to get a lot of numbers and then comment people, say, you know what, I like this about this class, or that's probably not going to be something that I would do again. But that's the way I think when you get feedback is the best way to start a class, and that way you kind of know what people want. So then the last class we're going to do balls and bands, and some of the people that have already taken my class at ALD or other places know that whatever part of the class at the end we kind of do different things with the ball and we do stuff with the band. And it's again a strengthening apparatus as far as, like, you know, if we don't have weights but we have these handy, you can do chest work with these, you can do abdominal work with the ball, even in the seated position. And then we want to think about, you know, as an instructor, the opposite muscle, right? So if we're going to work the chest, how are we going to work the back? So, you know, you can take your band and put it around your foot and give it a pull back to work your upper back then and work the opposite muscle. And then, it's because it's a 45-minute class, we're not going to continually do that. We'll get up and we're going to move around a little bit, maybe a song or two, so about a good 5 minutes, and then you go back and then we'll do some other things with the ball and the band. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
How about dynamic movement? This is one of my wife's favorite classes.
Yes, it is.
She loves this class. Tell us a little bit about dynamic movement. It sounds interesting.
Dynamic movement came to us out of New Orleans. We went to New Orleans for an aging conference, and I went to the dynamic movement training. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of work, because we were 3 solid hours doing different dances to oldies music and square dance. So it's just a variety of different dances that you do. Like the chair dance, you start in a seated position, but then we always move to standing after 3 or 4 seated songs, and it's all oldies music. So all of this music is from usually the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
You make them go 3 hours?
No,
oh, okay.
No. We do about 10 to 15 minutes warm up, and then we do about 20 to 30 minutes of standing dance, and that may be circle dance. It might be line dance. It's forward, back, side to side, and it's at an angle. And so we're really working with the brain, we're working with coordination, we're working with balance. And we have people all the time, if I say do opposites, then you can see their brain, they're kind of shaking their head for a minute until they get it. So it really is excellent for mind and body movement, working together.
And finally, let's talk about the Tai Chi and the Qigong. I know that you are the instructor for those particular classes. Qigong has really become quite popular.
It has.
And you're even thinking of adding some additional classes if there is enough demand. So tell us a little bit about the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong.
Tai Chi is done in sequence, and so you learn one form at a time, and then each week you build on those forms. So we have 8-form Moving for Better Balance, which is considered an evidence-based program, and that means it's been studied at Stanford University, and it's been tested for years and then brought out to the public. So we have the evidence-based programs. One is a 12-week and one is an 8-week class. And then we have 24-form Tai Chi. And so you take the 8 core forms that you learn and then add them into the 24-form, and they're mixed in. And 24-form is usually done in an 8-week class also. So it's a lot to learn, but really improves core strength, flexibility, and balance.
And the Qigong?
Qigong is really becoming very popular. It's just random movements that build, again, core strength, balance, flexibility, and inner peace.
Yes.
Meditation in motion is what we call it.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Very nice.
All right. It sounds fabulous. We encourage people to use the fitness center, to get out and to try some of these classes, and I am sure that they will enjoy it. Thank you very much for coming by and talking to us, as always.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Always welcome. And thank all of you for tuning in. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn. And now, here is a complete schedule of all of the classes with Aging Partners.
Legal services are a part of the spectrum of senior services available through our 8 area agencies on aging. Attorneys can assist and educate seniors on consumer credit and debt collection issues, as well as help them plan ahead with advance directives. Attorneys can also help seniors with consumer fraud and financial exploitation concerns, and also guide them through government benefit issues. For more information, contact the Elder Access Line at 800-527-7249.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Lita Powell Drake. How many octogenarians do you know who are still flying airplanes? Well, I know one. His name is Bill Ramsey, right here from Lincoln, Nebraska. And he says that he's more comfortable flying an airplane than driving a car. Now, Bill, welcome to Live and Learn. How old were you when you first got interested in flying?
Well, a lot of kids, I think, have been fascinated by planes from an early age. I certainly was. I grew up during the Second World War, and there were a lot of military planes flying around, and I always thought that would be a fun thing to do. I wasn't able to do it until much later, but I also knew that I didn't think I wanted to stay on the dairy farm for my whole life.
In the dairy farm, where did you live?
Near Seward.
Ah, well, I'm glad you moved to Lincoln. When did you purchase that first airplane?
I bought the plane within a year of the time I learned to fly, which I learned to fly in '64, and the plane was acquired in '65. I always told my wife I would never buy an airplane, so it's better to rent them, but that didn't work out that way. I ended up owning this one, which I still have.
And that was the Piper Cherokee?
Yes.
And why did you choose the Piper?
Well, it's a small plane, has 4 seats. I have 2 children. It is a relatively simple plane in that the wheels don't fold up, goes about 140 miles an hour, and is relatively inexpensive.
Well, what is relatively inexpensive for 1964?
Well, $14,500 was more than most cars cost by quite a bit, but a whole lot less than they cost now.
Well, why did you choose the Piper Cherokee?
Well, because of the size, and it was one I could afford.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know, I think a lot of people know about you. He was the director of engineering at Nebraska Public Television, and you did that for about 35 years. Okay, now, one of your big job is setting the transmitters all over the state of Nebraska so that everyone can receive NET, ETV, right. Nebraska Public Television. What did that involve?
Well, that was done between about 1964 and 1970. We built 2 stations a year. That's a picture of the top of an antenna out in Alliance. Mm-hmm. The state provided money to build these stations by enacting a cigarette tax, which is kind of a unique way of funding things, but the state was a pay-as-you-go type operation, and so that's the way it was done. So the plane was very useful in dealing with the construction of these things, Alliance, Bassett, Merriman, places like that.
Well, so the satellite dishes, are they all over the state, or are they just here in
We're
Lincoln?
talking first about the big towers and TV transmitters.
Yeah.
The satellite system was later. Originally, the signal got from the studios. The only studios we have are here in Lincoln. And it got to the stations via microwave, like the commercial stations had used for years. It turns out that eventually that became impractical, and the state of Nebraska was one of the first to use satellites to deliver the signal from the studio to the transmitters, and that's what those big round antennas were. Those were installed after the 70s. It's much later.
Now, how much did it cost you to get a license?
To fly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, learning to fly has never been inexpensive. You have to buy gas, you have to pay an instructor. At the time I was doing it, it probably was in the $50 to $100 an hour, and it takes at least 40 hours of training. At the present time, fuel costs that much. So learning to fly is probably never less than $10,000 or $15,000, and quite a bit more now.
Oh dear! And so you started flying at age 14?
Oh no, I started flying at age 28.
No. That's the age that people can learn to fly.
Yes.
At age 14.
Yeah,
little kids.
They joke about the fact that kids can become a licensed pilot at age 14, but their parents are going to have to drive them to the airport.
Oh, that's a good one. Now, Tom Umberger was one of the wonderful people out at Duncan Aviation. And in fact... oh, no, it wasn't called that.
Lincoln Aviation.
Lincoln Aviation. And did you fly with him at all?
Yes, I bought the airplane from him. He owned Lincoln Aviation. He also gave me my check ride and some of my instruction. But I flew with quite a few different instructors. One of the difficulties in learning to fly is that if you only are able to schedule a flight every week or two, you lose some ground in between times. So the most efficient way is to do it all at once, but few people do that.
And the avionics keeps changing.
Oh, yes.
And getting more and more and more sophisticated. I mean, when you look at that control panel, you say, oh my goodness, now. Before it was just simple. There were 3 or 4 little...
Well, like my T-shirt.
Well, yeah. Did you see the pilot's six-pack?
That earlier picture was the instrument panel on my airplane. My plane is a rather old one, but most of those instruments have been replaced from time to time.
Look at that.
And all of them are useful. but most have been upgraded. In fact, the magnetic compass was replaced just a couple of weeks ago. So everything has to work, and has to work correctly.
There's
or you can't
so
fly.
many things to look at.
It since you don't have other cars to look at, like when you're driving, it provides entertainment. The other thing that does make flying, as you mentioned, for me it's less stressful than driving a car, is that once you're up and leveled off at altitude, the autopilot basically flies the plane, and obviously you're talking to air traffic control, but it's the only time that you're really very active is if you're in significant weather or taking off and landing.
Mm-hmm. And Tom Umberger gave you your check ride, right?
Right.
He was very special guy.
Yeah, very good.
You want to say anything about him? What do you remember about Tom?
Oh, he was an excellent instructor. I remember I asked him once about minimum equipment for serious flight in instrument conditions, and he said a DC-3. This was a long time ago, but it did mean that planes like mine should stay out of ice and really severe weather conditions.
Now, what maneuvers do you go out and practice?
Well, you practice all kinds of things, turns, stalls, things that you might encounter. But at the present time, since I'm instrument rated, most of the practice I do every 6 months with an instructor is instrument procedures and things related to landing at an airport, as you'd have to do if the visibility was poor in fog, that sort of thing.
What's the price of gasoline for an airplane?
Well, I checked this morning, and you can buy gas for about $5.63 a gallon in Lincoln. Some places I've paid as much as $7 a gallon.
Oh, that's kind of expensive.
One reason it's expensive is that there's a lot of tax on it, and the other is it's the only fuel that's still available that has lead in it.
Yeah, I wanted you to take a look at, this is the 2018, the brand new, I'm going to put it down there, right there. That's the rule book. I can barely lift it. Boy, has that changed over the course of time.
It covers, of course, many things that I don't need to be concerned about, but it is the source of all FAA rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm. What's the price of airline gas today?
Well, larger planes, turboprops and jets use jet fuel, and that's probably in the $3 a gallon or more. I know it says probably $5 or $6. I don't buy that. My airplane burns gasoline, which is the stuff that's $5.60 something.
What are some of the no-nos in flying these days?
Well, certainly you can't fly if there are any of the medications that are prescribed that would be might cause drowsiness or anything like that. Mm-hmm. The pilot's license itself never expires. It's granted basically for life, but you can't use it without having some kind of medical certificate. And those have to be renewed by seeing an aviation medical examiner well, it depends on what class you've got. In my case, there's a new procedure. It's called Basic Med, which is somewhat simpler, but the big concern, particularly for older pilots, is their medical condition, if they have any conditions.
And visual.
Physical, right, obviously. Vision has to be good.
Yeah.
One thing that I carry is kind of amusing is called a SODA. It's a Statement of Demonstrated Ability, and I have that because my red-green color vision is not good, and I had to demonstrate to the FAA 50-some years ago that I could tell that your jumpsuit is red. And I can do that.
Oh, very good. Okay. Why do you have to cover up the airplane?
Cover it up?
Yeah, cover it up. We got a picture of your airplane covered up, and I was wondering why we did that.
It keeps it cooler. Airplanes, the door doesn't seal up necessarily all that well, so if it rains, you might get a little moisture in it. Basically, it also keeps prying eyes out. Some of the instruments in the plane, are $10,000. So you just assume someone didn't open the door and help themselves. So when it's parked overnight, or I got that cover when I flew the plane to St. Louis and caught a TWA flight to Europe, and it was going to be parked at the airport there for a couple of weeks. It just was a way to keep it a little cleaner and safer.
How many octogenarians in Nebraska are still flying airplanes, Bill?
Well, so far as I know, there are 10. There's an organization that I joined a couple of years ago. You have to have flown as pilot command after you're age 80. There were 10 in Nebraska that you also have to pay them $20 a year.
Oh, wow.
So maybe there are 40 and 20 of them just don't pay up. But it's a relatively small group. And nationally there's something like 1,500 members, but it's kind of selective.
Well, in addition to your flying, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I like to ski. We travel. I've been in all continents except Australia. I have been in Antarctica. That's a good place to go. I like music. I go to, I like photography. I've done a number of things. I've been retired a long time. One of my retirement jobs, I built a TV station in the Virgin Islands. That was interesting.
In your spare time, you built a TV station
well,
in the Virgin
it wasn't
Islands.
spare time. They paid me.
Oh, good.
I have, after I retired, they asked if I would coordinate the installation of the large pipe organ at Plymouth Church. And I've continued to maintain and do some work on keeping that instrument going. I worked on pipe organ installations for that same company in maybe a dozen different cities around the country. That was just kind of a fun part-time job.
This is the last thing that I wanted to show everybody because it's so odd. Tell us what it is, Bill.
Well, it's an iPad. In the days that you and I were flying originally, you had big paper charts like that had to be, they have to be replaced every month. And now pilots use charts that are downloaded to an iPad, and it's wonderful. I get new charts every 28 days, and that's what I use to fly to Topeka back yesterday.
Ah, boy, it's really changed.
Yes,
Times
it's
are
a lot of
changing.
fun. It's one of the most fun things I get to do.
Oh, I'm glad you're still doing that and capable of doing it. And remember, it's never too late to learn and learn much more about Bill Ramsey and all of his the things that he's involved in. And it's never too late for you to live and learn. And we want you all to keep your airspeed up.
Vulnerable and senior adults might be living in silent fear of elder abuse and financial exploitation. We can do something about it. The Nebraska DHHS recommends that communities maintain and improve resources such as public transportation and senior centers to prevent social isolation. Engage professionals in various disciplines to find solutions to end elder abuse. Every year, June 15 is observed as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, an opportunity to ensure justice for all.
Hi everybody, my name's Kim Hachia. Welcome to Live and Learn. You know, swimming has been called sort of a sport for all ages and a lifelong sport, and people enjoy it for recreation, for exercise. My guest today is, she enjoys it for exercise, recreation, and avocation. She's a long-distance open water swimmer who earlier this year became the first person to swim from the Caribbean island of St. Lucia to Martinique, and that's 22 miles. So welcome today, my good friend Molly Nance.
Thank you, Kim. Actually, I'm the first woman to do it. There has been a gentleman who's done it in the past.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even better then, right? That's awesome. So full disclosure, Molly and I have been really good friends for probably, what, 25 years at least. And Molly's also the big wheel at the Doherty Water for Food Institute at the University of Nebraska. So water is kind of a through line in Molly's life. And you've been a swimmer for a long time. Tell me a little bit about how you got started being a swimmer.
Sure. I started swimming like most kids. I swam in the local pool when I was a kid. I joined the swim team when I was a teenager and swam in high school. College was a little too intimidating. I didn't know if I could handle the intensity of the workouts and the focus. So I didn't do it in college, but really returned to it later in life, in my late 30s, early 40s, got back into swimming and discovered open water swimming when I started doing triathlons. And I thought, well, heck, this is awesome. There's no flip turns. I can get from one end to the other. It's beautiful outdoors. And discovered that open water swimming was its own thing. There are people who do this all over the world. So that's kind of what got me into it.
I know that it's swimming seems like sort of a singular sport, but actually you just said there's people all over the world that do this. So all over the world, tell me about where you have gone all over the world to swim.
Oh my gosh, well, I've been fortunate to have gone to both coasts. I went to England to try to swim the English Channel. I have swum in the Dead Sea in Jordan. So a lot of pretty exciting places. Yeah.
So how did you get the idea to do this, this particular swim we're talking about?
Well, it came from a swim that I was not able to finish, which was the English Channel. It was just wasn't my day. I ended up swallowing quite a bit of seawater, which made me really ill, and then I got really cold, and I had been training for the cold, but with the nausea combined with that, I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish it, so it was a big disappointment. But I thought, well, there's a lot of water in this world, you know, maybe there's some other place. And some friends of ours were talking about their vacation to St. Lucia and what a beautiful place it was. And I said, wow, well, where is that exactly? And we literally took out the globe and saw that it's in the southern Caribbean. And then I noticed there's this little island above it that just happened to be 22 miles away, about the same distance as the English Channel. And knowing that the water would be quite a bit warmer, I thought, well, maybe I could do that. So I started doing research and found that there was just one other swimmer who had done it. And then just, you know, through the internet and email, started making connections and getting a crew lined up and decided to make it happen.
So I think we have a picture of sort of the location in your map. There it is.
There's my track.
There's your track.
That's the track of the swim.
And it took you how long?
Just shy of 14 hours, 13 hours, 56 minutes.
Wow.
It was a long day.
Wow, it was a long day. And we have, I think there might be a little bit of video. It was pretty kind of choppy, right?
A little bit, yeah. It's what you'd expect.
Yeah.
But you know, here in Nebraska, there's really no way to train for this. I swam a lot at Branched Oak Lake, and it can get pretty choppy at Branched Oak, but these swells, there's just nothing to prepare you for that. And it makes you seasick, just like it would if you were on a boat.
But the water is incredibly blue.
It's gorgeous. And the water was beautiful.
You said
it was very comfortable. It was about 80 degrees.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe I was getting to swim in this beautiful, beautiful place. I loved it.
So tell me about the preparations for it. You had to set up a crew.
Had to set up a crew, so I had to find a boat captain. The boat captain needs to have a crew to help run the boat. I needed to have an official observer to document the swim. I had Paul, my husband, served as he did what we call feeds. It doesn't sound very appealing, but that's essentially throwing a bottle of carbohydrate drink to me about every half hour. I also had a first responder, a first aid person in case I needed some medical assistance, and I had a support swimmer and I had a support kayaker.
So that's a big crew, and these
takes team.
And except for Paul, these were all people that you had never met.
I hadn't met.
So you just had to.
Hope it all worked out, and we got along beautifully. They were all very committed to the swim, really excited, shared my enthusiasm for it. They were fantastic.
So day of the swim, you get in the water. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Well, you get we call it getting greased up, used practically an entire tube of Desitin diaper cream. This is the white that you see all over my skin, which works as a fabulous sunscreen, and it doesn't wash off. So that's really important when you're in the sun all day long in the water. And then I also had lanolin that helps with anti-chafing, because when you're in the salt water, all of a sudden your swimsuit, becomes like sandpaper. So I had all of that, and I was in the water at about 4:30 in the morning and got out about 7:30 that evening.
So I think of maybe the sort of issues you might have encountered: sharks, jellyfish. Apparently it was seaweed that was more.
The seaweed was the biggest thing. I was most concerned about jellyfish. Jellyfish can pack a wallop and ruin a swim, and actually you can get hospitalized.
Right.
Fortunately, I ran into a couple of jellyfish, but they weren't any big deal. I wore shark bands, which are magnetic bracelets and ankle bracelets that help repel sharks. I don't think a giant great white would really care. It would just go ahead and have its lunch. But fortunately, I didn't run into any marine life. It was no big deal. The only difficulty I had was with the seasickness, but with the warmer water, I was able to just kind of throw up and keep swimming.
So the seaweed thing, though,
Yeah.
did you just have to just bear through it, or?
Yeah, and it wasn't as bad as what I thought it would be. I was envisioning kelp, which have these big, knots like
Right.
knuckles on them and serrated edges, and it was like rosemary. It was like swimming through bunches of rosemary, and it had what are called sea lice. These are almost microscopic baby jellyfish, and they kind of sting a little bit. So they were full of that, but you just swim through it, you pull it out of your suit, you keep going.
So how do you train for something like this?
Well, I would go to the Y every morning before work and swim an hour and a half to 2 hours. In the evenings, I'd take the dog for a walk, maybe go for a bike ride, and then on the weekends, I'd put in longer swims, anywhere from 3 hours to 6 hours. And I did 2 weekends where I did 6 hours back to back. So Saturday and Sunday, I'd swim 6 hours each. Those were my really long training swims.
And so you would do this mostly at the Y,
Yeah.
but sometimes I know that you like to go out to Branch Oak and swim. And
Normally I would go out to Branch Oak, but the swim was in May, so I just had pool swims leading up to it. I did go out to California once before this swim and swam in the bay, which was quite cold. But again, there weren't any conditions that I could swim in that would replicate what I was going to have in St. Lucia. I just had to figure it out while I was there.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about swimming as a lifetime sport. I mean,
it's incredible. I go to swim events where there are 90-year-olds, 100-year-olds still swimming. It is a wonderful lifelong sport because you don't have that impact that can affect your joints and cause pain. I sure hope to be doing it long into my elderly years. And you'll find that most marathon swimmers, well, a lot of them anyway, are in their mid-40s on up because it takes a lot of time. And you don't have that when you're raising kids and starting a career.
Right.
So it's something that a lot of folks do later.
Yeah. I know that as you see a lot of older people that are running and doing these kind of sports, probably because of the time, but also you develop a different kind of a commitment to your sport and and as long as your body holds up, you might as well try it.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know you've told me that you really like the sensory experience of being in the water.
I love the feeling of water on my skin. I mean, if you think about it, of course, skin is your largest organ, and it just feels good to be in the water and to have that buoyancy. It's just an enjoyable sport. It's what I like about it. And it gives you time to think. You're alone with how many times do you have a chance to just get away from everything? There's no computer screen, nobody's telling me what to do. You're just alone with your thoughts in the water. It's a good feeling.
So do you think your kind of sport takes more, I don't know, self-discipline or?
I don't know as it takes any more self-discipline as any others. Because it's swimming, I find it's the kind of thing that I need to do in the morning because you got to get changed and take a shower and there's all of that. So for me, if I don't get up in the morning and do it, it frequently doesn't get done.
Right.
But yeah, like any sport, you have to decide, make a goal. That's what keeps me going. If I don't have a goal, that time easily gets filled up with other things.
So what's your next goal?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have a big goal for next year, but I think in 2020 I will head back to the Caribbean, and I'm taking a look at a swim from Martinique, starting in Martinique, which is the island that I landed on, to Dominique, and that has not been done before by anyone. So we'll see.
How far is that?
25 miles.
25. Wow, that seems far.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
But I go slowly. It's not a race. It's just taking your time, and sometimes it's just by 10-minute increments, trying to make it through the next 10 minutes, and then you feel a little better, and you just keep going.
Right, and it's just kind of I know you've talked about how nice and warm it was down there, but was the response heartwarming for you?
Was.
Were people excited about the swim? And
they were.
You got to write your name on a wall.
Yeah, similar. You get to do that in England if you swim the English Channel. So I suggested to one of the bar owners that has a yacht club actually on the beach. I said, well, maybe we could revive this, and this would be something other swimmers could contribute to, and we'll make this, a real destination point for this kind of event. And they were excited about that. The people in St. Lucia were just fantastic. I couldn't have done the swim without this team, because while I was swimming and I'm, losing confidence, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. And, everybody's on the boat and they're watching me and they're encouraging me, and it just, that's what kept me going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so at the end, you swim up and you run up on the shore. Do you?
Well, I wish I could have run up on the shore. It was more like a giant seal getting beached on a on the beach, and I get up and I'm covered in mud and sand and everything, and I'm just you know, it's just, I can't believe that we did it. It was definitely a we feeling at that moment, that it was something that my crew accomplished and helped me accomplish. And yeah, I got pretty teary. It was overwhelming. It was a pretty exciting moment.
And it was exciting for us who watched you on Facebook. So I want to thank you, Molly, for being my guest today.
Kim, thank you. This has been fun.
It's been fun and it's gone fast. And I want to remind our viewers, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, our guests are representing 3 of the major partners in the Prairie Corridor for the Haines Branch project. They are Nicole Fleck-Tews, the Special Projects Administrator for Lincoln Parks and Recreation, and Paul Tillig, the General Manager of the Lower Platte South Natural Resources District. And later we'll be joined by Glynis Collins, the Director of Spring Branch Prairie Audubon Center. Nicole, tell us what the Prairie Corridor and the Haines Project are.
Yeah, so the Prairie Corridor on Haines Branch is a tallgrass prairie passageway that will run along the Haines Branch of Salt Creek, and it will connect Pioneers Park and the Nature Center there to the west along the Haines Branch of Salt Creek to Conestoga Lake Recreation Area, and then heading south through the village of Denton and on to connect to the final destination of the Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center. There'll be a trail and a tallgrass prairie that is protected and restored along the corridor.
Then all that will be accessible to people someday to actually walk into a tallgrass prairie. Well, how does this project fit into the mission of Parks and Recreation?
Well, Parks and Recreation, our mission includes environmental stewardship, it includes active and healthy living, special places, and economic development, and the Prairie Corridor will really provide all those things. It'll be a very unique attraction for this area. It'll also be able to help bring children and families in connection with nature and experiencing the natural world and our natural heritage.
Well, Paul, tell us about the mission of the NRD and what the role of this project would be.
Right. Well, Lower Platte South NRD is one of 23 NRDs in the state. We have a locally elected board. Our main mission is groundwater management, flood control, soil conservation, stormwater management, and also wildlife habitat, dealing with wetlands, prairies, and woodlands. So this fits right in with what we're doing. Our role in the project is we're a 50-50 partner with the city. We did sign a 20-year agreement with the city, so this is kind of a long-term effort that we've got going on. The main role for the NRD, land management. The NRD is the lead on that portion. Also for the trail operation and maintenance, the NRD is the lead on that. And then we also work with the coordination and the oversight with the city.
Well, the project is working to preserve and reestablish native tallgrass prairie and other natural resources in the corridor, which is the wildlife that you mentioned, for example. And can you describe why tallgrass prairie is especially important and describe the NRD's experience in protecting and enhancing those?
Sure, Sam. Tallgrass prairie is a native grassland ecosystem, and it provides a rare native habitat for birds, butterflies, insects, reptiles, other small wildlife, and also controls erosion and runoff. Our experience, we've got some very experienced staff people that have a lot of experience in this area. We assist private landowners that have native prairies on their management of it. We have about a dozen conservation easements where we work on private lands with them with that, and we also own several thousand acres that are managed for similar type activities.
Well, how did this project get started, Nicole?
Well, the project really got launched with the development of the 2040 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan that was finalized in 2011, and that included a concept for the Prairie Corridor on Haines Branch and some strategies for how to develop it. And one of those strategies was the development of a master plan that was more specific for the corridor. So we worked on that in 2012, developed that in partnership with the Lower Platte South NRD, and that really served as the basis for our first application to the Nebraska Environmental Trust for funding for the project. And we reached out to matching partners for those funds as well, and we received that first grant from the trust in 2013, and that really launched this project for us.
Somebody had to have that concept, though, and I know Mayor Beitler is when he was in state legislature, for example, was always concerned about environmental issues.
Absolutely.
So he might have been
fairly environmentally minded. In fact, during the comprehensive plan process, we invited the community to submit their bright ideas for the plan, and the Prairie Corridor on Haines Branch was the idea submitted by the mayor for that plan.
Again, speaking of Mayor Beitler, on one of our Audubon meetings, it was mentioned that he felt this was one of the most significant projects, if not the significant project, in his tenure. Which we've had a lot of projects. The Antelope Valley, the Haymarket, and we've had the mall. So this is a very significant project in his mind.
It is, absolutely.
But what progress has been made on the project to date?
Well, yeah, let me jump in on that one. Yeah. The progress, we've got 25 different partners and individuals that are working. And when you have a couple of anchors like Pioneers Park and Spring Creek Prairie, you got two great projects there. Anyway, with those partners, it continues to grow, and there's a lot of interest in it, and really the project's continuing to move forward. As of now, we've conserved over 800 acres of either prairie or other natural resources through either purchase of land or easements.
Next we're going to show a piece that kind of will show our viewers a little bit about what a tall grass prairie is. It's a clip by the famous conservationist and photographer Markel Forsberg. And he's the Prairie Corridor on the Prairie Corridor cabinet, so he knows what a prairie is for sure. And this is just some of his photos set to music and such. So we'll show that next, and everybody can know what a prairie is. Now we are joined by Glennis Collins, the director of Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center. Glennis, how does this project fit into the mission of the Audubon, and what is your role in the project?
Well, Audubon's mission is to protect birds in the places they need today and tomorrow. And how we do that work at Spring Creek Prairie is to protect Nebraska's native grassland birds by protecting the habitat they depend on, the tallgrass prairie, which is one of the most endangered ecosystems in the world. Our role is partnering with all the other partners to support the development of the project and keep our habitat and trail system at our end of the connection in good shape.
Well, I know that it's a great expansion of tallgrass prairie, which is a diminishing habitat and therefore is diminishing many of the species that depend on it. And Spring Creek Prairie is a primary mover of preserving that habitat and that wildlife. But why is the trail and connection along Haines Branch to Pioneer Park in Lincoln important for Spring Creek Prairie?
Well, one of the ways we are working to protect birds in tallgrass prairie is, of course, the habitat work on site and partnering with other people in our community to protect habitat. The other part of that work for us, though, is to connect people with nature. As we connect people with nature, then there are more and louder voices generally in our community in support of that. So this trail is going to give us the opportunity to just connect many more people with nature over a much longer time period in the future.
So at this time, people can come to how many acres of Spring Creek can they access and without the Haines Branch?
Yeah, absolutely, and we invite all your viewers out anytime.
Go.
We're 850 acres. There's about 3.5 miles of mowed trails there that are open sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Our community has a long history of forward thinking and conservation projects, Nicole. Can you talk about the history as it relates to the park system? For example, the city even owns part of the Salt Marsh.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it was really community leaders historically that had vision and foresight to conserve some of these areas. Pioneers Park is a great example of that. That was donated by John Harris, I believe, in 1929, and now is one of the destinations or bookends of the corridor. Antelope Park along Antelope Creek, which has iconic features of sunken gardens, and Children's Zoo is another example of that.
Yes, I think Lincoln's done a very good job of environmental consciousness.
That's right.
And to learn more and get involved, you can, our viewers can tour Spring Creek Prairie, and they can also access the websites that have been shown on the screen. So I believe that many people can use the completed project in the future for a greater outdoor experience, but I also believe that it enhances the desirability of living in Lincoln. So the environmental promoters believe it will help the species that are currently stressed and declining. And I'd like to thank my guests, Nicole Fleck-Tews, Paul Zelig, and Glennis Collins, for telling us about this corridor along the Haines Branch project. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
I'm Sharon Cheney with Aging Partners here in Lincoln, and wanted to talk just a little bit about winter walking and getting out in the winter, still continuing your exercise program, but without the fear of falling. Okay, so we've got a few props. We'll show you a couple of things. We have this cane with the attachment that just snaps off like that, and then they put this right there when you're not using them. It just folds right back up like that. And so that's a nice addition to your cane for safety. If you're going out and you think it might be slick, have this in your car. It's just a bottle with a fairly large opening that you can keep sand or ice melt or something in it. So when you get out, you can kind of sprinkle it around till you get the feel of the ground beneath your feet. Have you ever stepped out of your car and there, whoops, and then there you are sitting on your rear end? So that might help you with that. We've also got shoe grippers on the bottom. Yakstrax is, I'm not promoting anything, this was just a brand that will fit over your shoe. And then leave these shoes right by the doorway because they can be slick in your house on wood floors. Also, you may want to think about how we walk. You know, some of us, we just walk real stiff and everything. Have you ever noticed penguins walk? They're always so fun. They always kind of like, they walk like this with their, you know, their legs out like that, and then they just kind of waddle. But when we think of humans, we need to keep our knees a little soft and just walk slow enough, give yourself a wider base, and there you are. Some other options, we were talking about mall walking. Gateway is a wonderful place to walk because it's all indoors. Be careful coming in and out, because as you step off some of those rugs, be sure that it's not slippery there. But you can also come, Aging Partners has a wellness facility, has exercise bikes, has treadmills, all sorts of activities that you can partake in. And also just think of a big grocery store. You can walk in a big grocery store. If you're out there buying things for your home, may as well just walk a few extra laps and then you're done. If you have your druthers and you don't have to be out, and there's no place you really need to get to, just hold on till the streets are cleaned a little bit more. Just kind of, you know, kick back, walk through your own house. If you've got stairs, you can walk up and down them, you can walk around. And like I say, you might feel like you're kind of funny, but it does get you out of that chair and get you moving again right in your own home. What we want you to do is stay safe and stay happy during this holiday season and all through the winter. Just stay safe. Thank you.